It's no secret that over the last year or so, I've watched a lot of CS2 demos, but most of the time I'm looking for new or interesting lineups. But one question that I haven't answered in a while is, what are the pros throwing the most? Today, we're going to discuss the most commonly thrown Molotovs on every single map in CS2 and explain the reasoning behind them. That way, if you're uncomfortable with your decision making and utility, you can at least fall back on these every round map controller conditioning Molotovs that you're going to be seeing here. But first, I want to thank today's sponsor, SkinsMonkey. So, SkinsMonkey is an automated CS2 trading site that provides an instant way for you to get new skins. All you have to do is select your old skins that you don't want anymore and then pick out some fresh ones to trade for. It's as easy as that. And right now you could get a free $5 if you use code CSTactics on the site. And finally, you could get up to a 35% deposit bonus when using my code. So thanks again to SkinsMonkey for sponsoring this video. Links in the description. Let's get started with Inferno. It's got a fitting name since there are usually 3 or more Molotovs getting thrown at the very beginning of every single round. Typically on CT, most people are going to throw a half-wall incendiary, denying that early point of aggression. However, the meta shifted a little bit. Now the Ts are throwing a half-wall smoke right out of spawn that's going to time out perfectly to not only just extinguish that half-wall Molotov, but also to provide a gap to peek through and get an angle onto car. But in order to safely take that angle, most of the T-side players have began mollying top car once again so that they can get inside that position without getting shot from car and then take the angle. To consistently molly off all of top car, most players are going to go along the right side of banana and aim along the upper right hand portion of the shutter as they're running to completely molly off car, denying that early peek and information. This definitely looks to be the most commonly thrown Molotov on Inferno in the current meta. Well, that or the classic apps Molotov that you'll see lurkers like Rops throwing pretty often. You can throw this by running alt mid right out of spawn, immediately breaking the glass and aiming at the bottom of the steps where the door would intersect, and doing a nice little run jump throw just as you cross the shadow. And this is going to spread to deny any sort of Hall's aggression or T-stairs push, even taking care of this cubby. At the very highest levels of CS, one of these 2 Molotovs is going to be thrown almost every single buy round, so learning why they're thrown and how to throw them can definitely benefit you on this map. So let's move on to Dust 2, which is a little bit more straightforward. On CT, it's simply throwing an anti-rush incendiary at B tunnels, and it's often paired up with an HE or a smoke, but this is going to get the job done and get thrown more than pretty much anything else on this map. Of course, an honorable mention is the player with the long spawn throwing a molly into doors, but there are quite a few different approaches to long control, causing it to be thrown slightly less than this B molly. For T-side, it's 100% the mid molly that discourages CTs from pushing into lower tunnels. You can do this whenever you have the middle spawn on T-side by dropping straight down into suicide and doing a running release as you're aiming at this palm tree. And as you can see, that's going to spread all the way into lower, causing any of the CTs that want to push through to take a little bit of burn damage. Also worth mentioning would have to be the classic car Molotov by jumping on top of the barrel and doing a W jump throw right here at the door handle to burn anyone out of cover and give you a free pick if they're set up out there. Of course, if you're good enough to hit the shot. So now let's move over to Mirage. On CT, it's certainly between these early Molotovs on both A ramp and B apps. Starting off with A, if you just run right out of spawn around the corner here and do a simple running throw at the last second at this nice little notch along the top of this building, well, that should completely molly off A ramp to where they can't move in at all. For B apps, it's fairly easy as well. You're just going to go towards these boxes and sort of line up to where you're only able to see this window right here. Aim at the mark just above it and do a nice running release just before you hit the wall, and voila, that should bank off the top and completely molly off everything back here, preventing anyone from pushing into apps or into kitchen. For T-side, it's without a doubt the Under Palace Molotov, and you can bank it right off of this sign here for an easy on-the-fly version as you're exiting from ramp. However, it's much better when the Palace player is able to do it for you. They can either go into this corner right here and do a nice little run, throw, and release from this point just as they hit the doorway. Or, if they're smoked off, they can go right into this position, aim at the corner, and use S and D to back all the way into this little corner and do a nice left-click throw to completely molly it off as well. Either way you throw it, it's definitely the most common Molotov to see on the T side of Mirage. Alright, so let's go ahead and move on to Nuke. By far the most important Molotov on CT is this squeaky Molotov that pros generally throw in a specific way so that it will go through this orange door after it's broken, preventing it from getting extinguished by any of the vent dive smokes. To do this, it's pretty easy. You're just going to climb right up this ladder here, and you're going to aim a little bit to the left side of the sign all the way up to the top of this little crane. You're going to do a nice run, throw, and release, and that should bank off the wall here, perfectly landing and hitting the orange door if they don't break it, but most of the time they're going to early nade that and it should land all the way on inside of Squeaky. And of course, you'll also see pros throwing an early Molotov towards ramp, and another pretty important one is mollying outside by running alongside this area down this ramp and doing a run throw where you have this pole lined up with the light and doing a nice little run throw and release from this middle wire. That should completely molly off this position, causing them to go into credit card if they want to push up. On the flip side of that, the most important Molotov for T side is the top hut molly, where you're going to go right here to the corner of this little vent cover and aim just up to the left from the bottom right of this triangle, doing a nice little run, throw, and release just before you fall off the metal piece. That should completely molly off all of top hut, allowing your teammates to take a site with ease. Now, Anubis is fairly simple. A lot of people will just go to the right side of this table and just do a simple left click throw at the top right of this little design on the wall. And that's a pretty good volley. It's going to get this doorway and the back right corner. However, it does leave a lot of room for players to play up close. This is especially dangerous on eco rounds whenever you could be running into 5.7s or shotguns or anything like that. So a lot of times you'll see the pros favoring a closer molly where they go right into the middle of this little ring at the top of the lantern and doing a W jump throw at this dark spot just below the window. And that should bank off the back here, and it'll still molly out the door, but also this close area right here. Of course, it will often leave a gap in this back corner, but you can always just flash them out of that position by having a teammate just left click one right through that gap, and you're not going to have too much of an issue dealing with that position if they're completely reading Braille. When it comes to Ancient, it's hard not to talk about the bottom mid Molotov. I usually do that by rubbing my back against this wall and aiming up from this nice little brick right here to the very top of the far wall. I'll do a nice run, throw, and release just as I hit the staircase, and all in one motion it's going to look something like this. And the reason I throw it that way is so that it's going to end up landing right here in the middle, burning all the way from the left to the far right. That way they can't push through without taking damage. Now, a lot of pros will be more concerned about that corner, and sometimes they'll kind of throw it by just doing this and completely burning that out, but that does generally leave a little bit of a gap to where they could run through without taking damage, as you can see right here. So however you like to deal with that is totally up to you, but generally what I'll do is all in one motion. I'm going to run up here, I'm going to throw my molly, I'm then going to throw an HE at this plant to hit anyone in that corner, and I'll also throw a flash like this where it's not going to blind me, but they'll have to turn or eat the thing, and it makes it pretty easy, especially if you have someone throw the instant elbow smoke. So any way you go about it, just make sure you're getting a molly down there. Most rounds you'll see the T's mollying off shelf by just doing a left click run throw at this little larger portion on the right side of the door here to completely burn off shelf, not allowing the CTs to take that advantageous duel. And finally, let's talk about Vertigo. Most pro teams are throwing a molly that lands right here onto this ramp because it actually spreads all the way up here into this hallway, completely engulfing this entire region, giving a lot of map control to the T's as they're pushing up ramp. And finally, this one's pretty obvious, but almost every round you're going to see the mid player banking a molly right here just like this to where they can't push through into mid or get into ladder early on. A lot of times you'll also see the pros bank a smoke right off of this back elevator here, completely smoking that region off. That way they can sort of threaten a push on down into the ladder just to keep them guessing as to whether or not they're going to be aggressive. So yeah guys, these are what I have observed to be the most common Molotovs thrown on every single map in the current meta of CS2. If you disagree or have anything that you think I missed, let me know down in the comments below, and we can probably add those into a future video. Anyways guys, I want to thank you so much for watching and give special thanks to all of my channel members that are on screen right now. You guys are amazing and allow me to do what I love every single day. See you guys in the next one.